There are many different graphic sex scenes in the book, including bondage, lesbian sex, threesomes and voyeurism. What made you decide to write for the erotic market? And what advice would you give to somebody interested in writing for this market?
Well, to be honest, I didn't initially write the book intending it to be published. That's why it's been put aside for so long. However, since revising these stories and with your encouragement, I thought it might be interesting to see if other people would enjoy reading them as much as I do. So that's why I've decided to self-publish the book. As far as advice about writing explicit sex scenes, I would suggest the writer follows the natural instincts of the characters involved. Don't force a situation which is out of keeping with their personalities. For example, if one of your characters is shy or reticent, don't show them to be initiating the sex scene. Or on the contrary, allow a tactile person to do a lot of touching. It helps if your subjects are already established, have already established their personalities. It makes the task so much easier.
This is the first work you've sent me which describes sex in such detail. You do seem to have a natural talent for it. Is this likely to be the course you're heading for in the future?
No, not necessarily. It just happens that the subject of this book is seduction, so it's inevitable that the sex scenes will be described in detail, just as I would describe a murder scene in some depth if I'm writing a thriller, providing it's essential.
Tell us about your early life.
My father was in the armed forces, so we moved around a lot. I lived in Cyprus and Aden and went to sea when I was 17.
Have you attended any writing courses or book clubs, and do you see these as being of value to writers?
Yeah, I've been on Arban course and I've joined writing groups as well. Both are very useful, and I think it helps to have other people's opinion of your work.
And I was just wondering, could you name some authors who have inspired you?
Patricia Highsmith, particularly the Ripley novels. I enjoyed the humour you get in David Lodge's Death Sentence, and was very impressed with the curious incidents of The Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I like short stories, the erotic stories of Anais Nin, of course, and particularly short stories by Maupassant.
How long did it take you to complete the book?
Difficult question. I've been working on the stories, putting them away and coming back to them. I would say it'd probably over a 15-year period, maybe.
When you were working on a book, do you become obsessed with it? For instance, do you find yourself dreaming about your characters?
Yeah. I think about the characters a lot, wondering how they would react in different.
Do you have a certain method of writing? For instance, I know that some writers prefer to write at certain times of the day or in a particular place.
No, I don't have a particular place. I wake up very early and usually have ideas. My main ideas are in the morning. Although I can write throughout the day, but I'm not usually very good late in the evening.
Do you plot and outline your stories and characters first, or do you start writing and then revise?
I do plots first. I work on the plot first and then bring out the characters involved. And then sometimes the characters take off by themselves, of course.
One thing I like about your book is that you have a great variety of characters. There are younger and older people, ranging from Monsieur Raoul in his 70s down to Dale, who is 20. You also have many different nationalities, including Anna from Germany, Jane from Australia, and Louisa from Spain.
Yeah.
Did you ever find that these characters were developing a life of their own and changing in a way that you hadn't originally planned for them?
Yes, like I said earlier just now, that they sometimes do take off. They sometimes change the course or the direction that I've set for them, particularly some of the stronger characters, they go off on a tangent.
And how did you create the characters? And do you believe, like some other authors, that it's useful to create a profile for them, backgrounds, and create physical descriptions for them, or is that a waste of time, do you think?
Oh no, it's good practice. I have their dates of birth, pictures of them, what I consider to be their physical appearance, and a biography for each character, even if they only feature a minor role. I think it's important for an author to really know his characters.
Now, I have to ask you this, even
Yeah.
though I think I know what the answer's going to be.
And I think I know what the question
Do
might be.
you have a favourite
Yeah,
character?
yeah. Oh, so difficult. There are likeable characters. Some are stronger. I really don't have one particular favourite. It depends. Sometimes I'm drawn to one and then not so, and another one. Some I'd like to hang around with, and some I'd rather stay well clear of, I think.
Are any of your characters based on real people?
No.
And I hope that maybe some of them are not.
They're not, no. In fact, I can't think of any character that's totally based on a real one. I'm sure you get different sort of things from different people you come across. There are certain aspects I take from real people. I suppose I take bits from people I've come across, but the rest is all imagination.
And do you have a favourite story in your book? Or maybe not favourite, but one which stands out for you?
Yeah, at different times I do, but not particularly overall. I switch, really. There are times when I'm drawn to one particular story, and then I like the characters themselves, move on to another one I like more at a particular time.
I'd like to talk about the rise of e-books and self-publishing. What are your views on this?
Definitely positive, I'd say. A positive move because I do know some excellent writers who've had rejection after rejection, and their books deserve to be read because they are so good. The market may be flooded with rubbish, but it doesn't matter. It makes it more accessible to some great writing.
I really like the humour that runs through many of these stories. For example, in Audition, we see Cordelia teasing the doll Brad.
Yeah.
Calais Manjon is a story depicting bondage and contains much humour. Louisa forgets what she's supposed to be doing in the story, whilst Mercy has her own diversions. In the video, Colin's viewing is rudely interrupted, and I find that so funny when that happens. And I particularly liked your portrayal of Pierre in his guise as a waiter in several of the stories. Do you see humour as being an important part of your book? And did you make a conscious effort to include it, or was it something which just developed?
Humour can come into any situation, I think. Even the most serious subject matter is a way of breaking the mood. So yes, I see it as being an essential ingredient.
I find it very funny in the story, the video, where Colin is watching one of his favourite films and something happens when he begins to watch it.
Right, I know what you mean, yes, exactly. He's watching his most favourite pornographic video, and something goes wrong.
The woman pushed the delivery boy to the kitchen floor and stood with her feet astride of the young man's head. As the camera zoomed in, the picture began to flicker and within seconds turned to snow. Colin cursed himself for neglecting to rewind the tape after successive viewings. He waited for the interference to clear, wondering how much of the sequence had been damaged. The picture came back to life, but a new image stood out in bold definition. Colin screwed his eyes and frowned. The scene looked vaguely familiar, but he couldn't recall ever seeing this particular shot in the movie. Then it came to him. He sat up. The location was the very same room he was sitting in now. He removed his hand from his trousers and covered his erection as the figure of his wife came into view. Samantha, dressed in her office suit, stepped forward and adjusted the camcorder, which had been positioned behind the armchair where Colin was sitting. She returned to the sofa, crossed her legs and placed her hands in her lap.
Yeah, well, so Colin's in for a few surprises in this story, I'm afraid. He does.
Changing the subject totally, several of your characters are in love. In the dance, for instance, Hermana and Rachel are in love with each other, and their dancing is watched by Natalie, who is also in love with her partner Charlotte. But it's not until the final story, Monsieur Henri, that she feels able to reveal her feelings to Charlotte. How important was it to you to have a mixture of different types of relationships, from the casual, for instance, to the committed?
Well, there's also Albion Prudence. That's another love story in the book. Yeah, I wanted to show lots of different types of relationships, really. Some with emotional attachments and some with none. Some have a mutual attraction and a deeper relationship, yeah.